in Cannes today. We're at Brand Innovators 2026. And I'm super happy to have you here, Carina, today. I'll just start by briefly introducing myself. My name is Hassenforder. I lead the global marketing effectiveness practice at Ekimetrics. And I'm super happy to have you today and to be able to know a bit more about how you navigate all the noise today.
Thank you.
So maybe the way we can start is I'll let you introduce yourself, and maybe if you have one word to describe yourself, let us know what it would be.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here today. I love Brand Innovators, and thank you for taking the time and having me. I'm so glad we're out of this heat right now. So my name is Carina Ertl. I'm the CMO for Bucherer USA. I've been with them for 7 years. And I think it's so interesting, all the conversations we've had this week, to your point about like how to build out AI within our respective companies, but also how do we personally use AI, how the clients use AI or the customers use AI, but then also how to break through the noise, right? So it's really an interesting week where last year we were all about, oh my God, what is AI changing? What is it doing? And everyone was like, is AI killing our jobs? And this year it's a much more pointed conversation to how do we actually apply AI? How do we optimize? How are we changing, but in much more precise ways, if I may say.
Exactly. And I think what's really interesting about your brand is that it is a heritage brand, right?
Yes.
It's been around for more than a century.
Yes.
And you've managed to stay so strong and keep that heritage while everything around you is changing.
Yes.
And that's actually a question for you. In the last few years, how have you seen your customers change? How do they change in terms of the way they choose, discover, decide on where to go and how to choose you?
It's a very interesting question. So I think consumer behavior has definitely changed in terms of how you discover product, right? How, especially also in general, but also in the luxury space, how do we find product? How do we discover product? How do we use Gemini, ChatGPT? So that's definitely starts to play a more profound role in the discovery journey, and we cannot ignore it. But at the same time, within this like really luxury space, the experience, the personal connection, like the human interaction and the actual retail in-store experience is still absolutely paramount.
I love that you say that. I actually heard you speak, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, where you said something about in luxury, it's very important to make sure that AI stays invisible and that the human connection stays.
Yeah.
How do you manage to make sure that that's the case and you hold on to that?
Yeah, thank you. I say like invisible technology, invisible humanity. I think you just take like your AI roadmap and you're and this is relevant, I think, for every company, right? That you're not like, especially also here in Cannes, where there are so many different vendors, so many different incredible opportunities. I think you need to be very grounded in how you envision your AI roadmap, how you really know where you want to optimize, where you want to start, where you want to be in like 3 years, 4 years, and do that step by step, right? Because we, as like, I think marketeers get overwhelmed by just the sheer amount of opportunities that are out there. So I think that's a first step. And then you really make sure that the technology is, to your point, invisible in the background, and you still hone in on the in-store experience and on the actual like connection with the clients and customers.
And so in that sense, do you feel that the customers have shifted to where they are and where you manage to speak to them?
I feel that there is so much more appreciation in that point of human connection. Even if you use, like, let's say ChatGPT today, like a lot of people, I think there was a data point around 70% love to talk to ChatGPT, but then they are also, because they also like that ChatGPT actually responds to them. So it's a very scary data point, because that means that in the interaction between two people or in a human interaction, you want that response, you want that like instant feedback.
And how do you feel, and do you see that customers have changed the way they interact with your brands? Have they shifted in the way they try to discover it?
Mm-hmm. I think definitely from the discovery journey, like as I said before, like ChatGPT or whatever you want to use, play a more significant role. But then because there's so much noise, because there's so much AI, that need for the actual human interaction has become even stronger. So even if you think about, like, let's say you're like stuck at an airport somewhere, you don't want to talk to an AI application about changing your flight. You really want to get an agent on the phone and first of all, get out your frustration about this flight being canceled, but then also like really talk with an actual human being about like changing your flight. And that's even more in the luxury space where it's so like high touch and so premium. You want to have that personal connection. You want to celebrate that moment where you buy like a luxury item or a timepiece, a jewelry piece. You don't want that to be like, it can be supported by technology, but the moment itself is meaningful. There is an emotional context behind it, and you cannot replace that with AI.
That is true. The hyper-personalization is really the high-end luxury touch.
Yeah.
And so for you as a CMO, how do you feel that do you feel you're sufficiently equipped today to actually navigate through all of these questions, the changes, understanding what's happening, where you go?
I think, to be perfectly honest, I think it's really, really hard for a marketer today to navigate through the noise. I think you really need to be honest with you and within your company, within your leadership team. Like, what are we trying to optimize for? Like, where do we really see opportunity, and build out a very consistent AI roadmap or general like roadmap, right? Because what can happen also when you're here at Cannes, it's like there is so much incredible tools, incredible like opportunities, right? And you can just be like, oh my God, I want to buy into this sounds amazing. But you need to like take a step back and really look at it consistently. Like, what am I trying to optimize for? And how do I find, and what are the right tools and the right vendor partners to like really optimize for what I'm trying to solve for?
And is there maybe a bet that you're particularly proud of that you managed to do in the last few years around those, anticipating those big changes?
I feel like you try to stay calm within like the I don't even want to say storm because that sounds negative. It's not negative at all, right? It's very, very exciting. But I think you want to like stay calm and grounded in that. And then at the same time, you just cannot lose focus on the actual client, right? What does the customer really want? What is really that experience? And again, I come back to the analog experience within the store environment or within the in-store environment, especially within luxury. So I think like instead of like going into like, oh my God, we need to do all these like technical optimizations, to really start with this actual in-store experience.
It's fascinating to think it's all changing, and at the same time, at the end, what you're offering to the clients needs to say the same, this high-end luxury touch.
Yeah.
And maybe to finish, do you think there's something that you managed to do differently than all of your competitors, better in terms of using AI, but also keeping it quiet?
I can't really talk about that, but I think in general, like more speaking more in general, in that like luxury segment, you always want to bring it back again to the experience and also to the brand. I think if you're rooted into that, if you bring it back to the client and your brand and being authentic about that and very intentional, I think that's a win.
Amazing. I mean, I love the way that everything always comes back to the experience, the customer, and how you make him feel. So the emotion in the end. Okay, and really interesting. And do you think that with all these transformations, do you feel that your customers have shifted and changed the ways they discover your brand and interact with your brands?
I think the discovery is definitely shifting as we speak, right? Everything is happening very fast. So definitely how you start looking for product, how you do your research, especially in our segment, there's a lot of research involved. So that's definitely going through newer channels, which we need to definitely account for. But then at the end of the day, it's still such an emotional purchase, right? It's a product that's so like definitely connected to like an experience, to an emotion. So for us, it's so paramount to hone in onto that, into that store experience and the client experience in the store environment.
And actually, I was listening to something you said a few days ago where I loved it. You said that in luxury, it's really important that AI stays quiet And it was really
Yeah.
all about this human touch.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what you're referring to.
I like to say invisible technology, visible humanity, because I feel like we get in that whole conversation, we're losing like the human aspect of it and the human connection that we all actually need and strive for. Like people talk to ChatGPT because they are lonely, because they want to feel like a connection with something, which is actually very, very scary. And then they love ChatGPT or any other application because it responds. So that's a very scary data point. And that's what we want to make sure, that we actually have a human interaction, that we reach out to you, that we stay in touch with you, that we welcome you to a store environment to experience with us together different products, and like just making sure that we really don't lose track of that.
That's a very interesting data point. Actually, it makes me think, as a CMO, there's so many things that you need to know around everything that's shifting. Just that data point, how consumers behave, how they discover. Do you think today you're sufficiently equipped to understand how these changes are happening rapidly?
I think it's just, I mean, obviously coming to Cannes, for example, is like a big part of that experience for me, is like education, like knowing what's possible, what's out there. But then you also need to take a step back and be really intentional about where you see opportunities, what is the roadmap that you want to lay out, and where's the opportunity with different partners to solve for it. But I think like really staying grounded and almost like making sure you're not getting lost in the noise, but cutting through it and be very clear about where you actually have opportunities. I think that's paramount.
I'm guessing for that, to be able to navigate to that, you must have like a top-notch roadmap that you follow and that evolves all the time.
I think we try.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Carina. It was really interesting. I loved how you always came back to the customer, the emotion, the brand aspect. And even though everything is changing around, that stays true and the heritage stays. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.